So 10,000 people came. So it's a, I mean, hopefully it will help to get people more interested in Margate again as a place where artistic projects can happen. Yeah.
Yeah, you talked quite a bit about, there's a kind of difference in the way that the children see and express themselves photographically. And I'm just wondering, you've also talked about how that changes as they get older and as we get into adulthood as photographers. Are there any things that we can learn from the children, the spontaneity that can help our photography kind of get closer to because it becomes very sophisticated, over-sophisticated sometimes as adults. So, what kind of things can we learn from the way that they work?
Well, I mean, I suppose that's what I've been doing all the time. I mean, I've been influenced so much, by how I see. And, I mean, I think the one thing that they have that we don't is they're not so conditioned by seeing as many images or what they feel is right to be photographed. I mean, once you sort of open the door and say you can photograph anything, they don't censor themselves, I guess. Maybe that's the, and they're very playful. But I mean, those are things we know about, children, and that they are more expressive. And I think that as artists, I guess that's what we keep trying to do. And it's, I don't know that there are any answers to that, really. Yeah.
The banners that were burnt in Margate, they become a part of the work. It seems to me that it says so much about the kind of, flash culture and the kind of antagonism that's around the arts.
Yeah, that was very hard. Because, well, the family lives in town, and that little girl lives in town. And they definitely, the family is amazing, and they definitely want to be part of a dialogue about that. But I wasn't in agreement with this, but the people that I worked with wanted to keep that quiet. They didn't. I wanted to have a community meeting and sort of talk about it, and I kept trying to have community meetings, and they kind of shied away from that, and which was something that I felt uncomfortable about. But I do have pictures of the burned banners, and although I haven't used them, and we did a book Towards a Promised Land, and we didn't use them in the book, although I would have liked to have.
Okay,
Thanks.
I think we'll probably, because we're just about on time, we'll break for lunch and be back again at 1:15. We'll carry on after what I thought was a pretty terrific morning session. We'll carry on with Rineke Duksura, who's been able to come over from Amsterdam for us today. So would you please welcome Rineke Duksura? Switch on. Okay, yeah.
Okay. What you see here is my self-portrait, which I took in 1991. It is one of my first portraits I made for myself. Before that, I worked in commission for quite some years. And before that, I was in art school. I studied photography. And so after I graduated art school, I worked in commission for magazines and newspapers. And I always did portraits for them. And I'm a bit out of yes, and somehow, and I always also did a lot of annual reports, so I had to photograph a lot of businessmen. And these businessmen especially knew exactly how they wanted to present themselves, and I was sort of fed up with that at a certain point. I wanted to make something which was more related to myself and which was more substantial. And I also wanted to make, when I was photographing this businessman, always when I was changing my camera or my film, and I didn't look at them, they were more relaxed. And then I thought, oh yeah, that's much better, when they're just more themselves. So I was always trying to find that specific moments that people are more relaxed and don't think so much about their pose. So I worked for quite some time for this annual reports and magazines and newspapers, and then at a certain point I felt, now it's enough. I'm going to take 2 months off and I'm going to think about what I would like to do. And it was summer and I had a really good time, but no idea really came up. So the last day of that 2 months I had a bicycle accident. I broke my hip. So that gave me another 5 months to think about it. But then I had to do exercises to recover from that hip, and I had to swim every day 30 laps. And so I came up with the idea to make a self-portrait after swimming, and then that you are going to stand there, that you're tired, and that you're not going to think a pose. So I had that self-portrait, and in the beginning I thought it was really ugly, and I didn't like it at all. But after a while I started to like it, and the bathing suit idea. And I liked the idea that it was a kind of nude, but not really nude. You can see the figure very well, and I decided to continue with this bathing suit thing. And I grew up near the beach, and I used the sea already for. Sometimes for works in commission, and so I decided to bring friends over to the beach and photograph them in their bathing suit. But then I had the same problem because they were also so conscious about themselves, about their bellies, about their hips, so it didn't work at all. And then one day I found a girl there on the beach who was playing there with her friends, and she was 14, and I took her picture. And there was such a nice lack of inhibition, so it was so natural. And then I realized that I should not photograph people I knew, but I should photograph strangers. Can I have the next picture? So first of all, I took a lot of photos in the Netherlands, but somehow that was too familiar. And then a friend of mine, he had to stay a while on Hilton Head Island in America, and he invited me to come for a couple of weeks. So I thought, well, he had to work there, so I thought, I bring my camera, maybe I can do something there. And there I found out that it was really different from the Netherlands, the people were much more into glamour, into perfection, and it was very interesting for me to see this. And the Hilton Head Island is a sort of wealthy family resort, only the rich people go there. So you have this fancy bathing suit. This is 1992, it's quite a while ago. But you can definitely see this is, America somehow. And in the beginning, I wanted to photograph all kinds of people. I wanted to photograph, I also did. I photographed, whole families or fathers with daughters. But then at the end, I thought that the younger people were most interesting because they have a less defined personality yet, and they were much more open and somehow, I have to look now. Even kijken hoor. Yes, they appeared more natural to me, and even kijken hoor. So, yeah, maybe next picture, so people have to see. So. Okay. Yeah, also because especially these young people are in a state of transition in which the child has not been cast off and the adult had not integrated yet. I like that idea. At the same time, I found out that, the children are always, maybe I should, this is still Hilton Head Island. And I tried not to give many direction. For me, I work with a very old-fashioned 4x5-inch camera, which means that you work with one plate at a time. It's a tripod. It's a very slow process of making pictures, and it's for me it was very much about looking at them, about observation, and just waiting for the right moment. Yeah, what I find so interesting about, what I liked, that background, what I used is the sea. It's very simple, and it was a great background because it's always the same. It's very simple. It isolates people, but at the same time, it's always different because of the weather and because of the time of the day, and it's very natural, and you can find people there. So it was a kind of outdoor studio. Because of the 4x5 inch, it looks a bit like it's a backdrop, because I don't know if you know if there are all photographers here, but with 4x5 inch you have only like a very short focus point, and just after 20 seconds the backdrop becomes out of focus, which gives it a kind of backdrop studio atmosphere. Yes, next. So, well, this girl is, I was photographing somebody on the beach one night, and then this girl came to me, and she was watching, what I was doing, and she said, "Wow, what are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm making pictures, but," and I looked at her, and I thought that she was too cute for me, and I was not so interested in photographing her. So I said to her, "Well, if you want to be photographed, you should come back tomorrow because it's getting dark now." And so she came back the next day with her mother, and I said, "Oh yeah, I had said to her, just don't wear makeup, just very natural." And then she came back and she was full of makeup, and she had this new bikini. And then so I was like, and it was really windy, and she was standing there, and the wind was blowing her hair, and it was such a horrible situation. And then her mother said to her, "Irene, you're so fat." And she felt so unhappy, and also from the photographer, for me, I think she expected that I was a kind of fashion photographer. And I'm not. I don't give so many directions. I just, look and watch and try to work from the person itself instead of telling them what to do. And so she really felt kind of unhappy. And at the end, the picture turned out so nice, because for me it was such a symbol of, somebody who desperately tried to look like perfection. She's holding her belly, but at the same time, it's a sort of sculpture for me. The way she's holding her hand, she's somehow very elegant, but at the same time you can see the fear in her eyes that she's trying to really look like perfection, which is almost impossible, of course. Can we have the next? So after Hilton Head, I thought it might be interesting to go to Russia or an East European country where the media didn't have completely taken over yet, and I was just curious to see how different that was. And also, what the similarities were then. And, well, I had to say that the awkwardness of the teens were somehow universal. But in the little details, like in the kind of bathing suits or the jewelry or the way they were posing, you could see the differences. And I thought that these were kind of codes from someone's culture. And this picture particularly, when I came at home, and I developed my films, I made contact sheets, and she reminded me on a very famous painting, and I looked it up in my Jensen because I couldn't recall immediately what it was, but that was that Birth of Venus from Botticelli. And it's funny because I didn't really see it when I was photographing. I only remember that the girl was very, very shy, and that she was just standing a bit like this, and I felt that because, with a 4x5 inch camera, you see everything upside down, and I was looking and I thought, well, if she turns her head a little bit like this, then it's more balanced. And so now it's a kind of a really classical pose, and I was so lucky with the clouds on the background, which gives the hair, which comes out a bit, which gives a bit of direction, and then the how do you say that, in the bathing suit, the way that Chloe, we call it, I don't know the English word. So it's, what I like now, it's like, she looks like a Renaissance beauty, but she's an awkward teenager. Next picture, please. This was also in Poland. You know, when I approached people, I always asked the parents first, or in Poland you had all those groups of children. And so because they come from the south and they go with a whole group to the beach, because the parents doesn't have enough money to go with their kids on holiday, so they go in groups. And so I asked these teachers of the people who were with them if I could photograph them, and so I decided first to make a group portrait. And what I like so much about this picture is that they all like the same age, but you can really see the difference in, you know, one is really the, one is really, oh, what's this? Can we switch off the light? Some of them are, so the one is really like kind of a leader, the second one is really like a tough guy, and the two small boys in their underpants are very shy, and then there is one who is doing exactly what he thinks that expected from him. And I like that so much, you know, that you have all these different people, but there's always something very characteristic in all of them. And I think that is something which is really important in my work, that I'm really interested in this kind of group settings where there's sort of similarities, but at the same time I always try to find what makes these people special and what makes them different from each other. So later I picked out two small ones. Next, please. Which is this. And you know, sometimes I'm so lucky with the way they find their post. The strange thing about, the photographers all know that at the time that you're making the picture, you really have to make a decision, is this a good moment or not? It's not like a painting that you can look at it for a while, it's changing all the time. Most of the time you see at home what you have done and if it's a good image or not. But of course, what I like about this one is that the one on the right side is quite female, and the one on the left side is quite, how do you say that? Mannelijk, and the opposite of female. And also, here I was very lucky, of course, with the background, because if it has been a clear day with a bright blue sky, it would have been a totally different picture. Can we have the next? Like this one, for instance, that's a totally different atmosphere. And of course, as a photographer, that's not under your control. I also like that idea, that you have to improvise, it is always different. This is a girl from Belgium. Next, please. This is also Poland again. Next one. This is in Brighton, England. This was a funny story too. I was there with my brother, he was my assistant, and he drove me around at that time that I made the pictures. And it was raining all the time, typical English, I think. And so in between the showers, we went to the beach and tried to see if, try to make some pictures. And then there was this family swimming in the sea. Her mother and two sisters, that's this girl too, and I was asking them, well, why are you wearing your clothes? And they said, yeah, well, we came from school and the sun was coming through and we didn't want to spoil time, so we decided just to go for a swim. And so I photographed the girl, and she looks like a sort of a sea nymph, I think. And especially when, also when I was photographing, I saw her hands, I saw her doing that, and I thought that it was really strange, so I asked her, the next photo, I asked her, could you do your hands just like this? And at the end, it was so much more beautiful, the way she did that. It was totally unconsciously, I think, but it makes it special, I think. Also here with the colors, of course, I was really lucky that the color of her dress has the same color as the, fits very well with the background. Next, please. Then I decided, this is a year later, I decided to go to America again, but then to another part, to more in the neighborhood of New York. And that was more the working class area. So you got different people, and this was 2 guys from a group of friends. And I think they are almost the same age, but they look totally different. Next, please. This is Coney Island. Well, here you see it in the print, you don't see it here, but her bathing suit is knitted. And I like this kind of details, you know. You can think about, maybe she's from a poor family, maybe her grandmother made it for her. I like all those details where you can fantasize about. Next, please. This is in, oh yeah, the other pictures were not taken in Russia. This is Russia. The other ones were taken in Poland. Sorry about that. So this was taken in Russia, and in Russia the beaches were very small. So it was very hard to, you know, in the daytime, all the Russians go with their feet in the sea, and I wanted to have these empty backgrounds. So I started to ask people, I had a translator there and his girlfriend, and I asked them, well, could you ask these people to go out of the sea, because I need an empty background. And people got so upset, so I decided to photograph more in the evening. And that was actually really nice, because it gives really interesting backgrounds. Also here you see on the bathing suit that this is, you know, not so fashionable as America or West European. Next, please. This is one of my favorites. This is also in Ukraine. It's 2 sisters and a brother. And the little girl in the middle was very interested to be photographed, but the sister was very shy and the boy really didn't want to. So the middle sister pulled him into the camera. It gave such a nice composition. And now I recently discovered that all their mouths are kind of the same. You know, they all have these little holes here. And as you can see, it's really one group. Next, please. Now this was a little boy in Dubrovnik. In Dubrovnik I had exactly the same problem as in Russia, that the beaches were so small. And then in front of the coast you had always islands, so I had to, you see that the horizon is not straight as beach. I had to photograph in between those. And then I was just set up my camera and I was photographing a friend of him. And then a boat stopped there, you know, and I was like, oh no, I don't want to have that boat in my picture. So this little boy, he said, well, I can swim to them and ask if they can go away. And so I said, well, it would be great if you could do that. So he did, and and then he came back, and I wanted to thank him because, you know, it was so kind of him, and I took a Polaroid of him. But because he came out of the water, the water was reflecting, of the flesh was reflecting in his body, which, yeah, gives it a sort of very nice sculptural figure. I like these little details, like these hands who are not really touching his body, and he looks like a sort of a seagull or something, or a dolphin. Next, please. This one is taken much later, also in Poland. But you can see that my sense for light changed a bit. In the beginning I really used the flash, and now I'm like more, you know, I try to let it look more natural, there are more shadows, so it's only more like a fill-in flash. Next, please. This is also Coney Island. This is a bit different picture because it's, you know, the girl is really posing in different ways. It's much more, much more cool than the other ones, but I still like this picture. Next one, please. So after the beach portraits, I think I took some street photos for a while, and then I started to photograph people, women after giving birth. And I was interested in how you can capture an emotion, like, because you know, when people gave birth, there are so many emotions. They are exhausted, but also they are really happy and they are tired. And I wanted to see if you can capture all these emotions in a picture. And I came to the idea because a good friend of mine gave birth to her first child, and so I was there, and it was, you know, it was very tough to see her to get in more and more pain. And then finally, when the baby was there, she was so like, you know, happy, but also confused. And so I thought I was just interested in to see if you can capture that in an image. This is not a picture. This is somebody I photographed just after giving birth, and then I photographed her like 6 months later. And I thought it was so interesting because it's, you know, there's a difference, but you can hardly tell what it is. It's only like, it's a sort, she feels different. In the first picture she's really tired, and here she's much more radiant and happy. And that's so great from photography, that you can really capture that kind of moment. Next, please. Well, so this is one of the women after giving birth. Well, it was pretty tough to make these kind of pictures because I wanted to have them against a white backdrop in their homes. But of course, you know, these people are laying in bed, and it's very hard to ask them to come out of the bed just for the picture. And this woman, it was really strange because I had this idea, and I asked around, I asked friends if they knew people, and then I was working with a designer at that time. And she said, well, I know a designer, and his wife is going to have a baby. So I contacted them, and they were interested. You know, they said, well, sure, it would be nice, and maybe we can meet before. And so we had a sort of appointment for Monday or something. And then the Friday before, the guy called me, and he said, listen, you have to come now, because it started. And I said, yeah, but this, you know, I don't know you, it's really awkward. And he said, well, just come and we will see what happens. They were really into it, it was great. And so, you know, at the end it was tough because nobody thought about it anymore. And so, but the nurse who was helping, because people in Holland, most of them give birth at home. And so she helped me. She said, okay, let's have a coffee first, and then you make a photo, and then we're going to wash the baby, something like that. She had a kind of schedule. And I really took this picture in 2 minutes. So, I mean, I like it the way she's protecting the baby, and I think her case is like if she's coming, you know, that she's really in a different world still. But this was the first picture I dared to make after half an hour, and I didn't want to do it anymore because I thought, you know, this is somehow too private. And so the next one was taken after 1 day. But you can see she looks confused, and it's a new moment in somebody's life. It's, I think, that motherhood changed you forever because you realize that for the first time you really are responsible for somebody else's life, for a child. Next, please. And this girl is Saskia. She had a cesarean, so I could take her photo only after 1 week. And I had this kind of a, how do you say that? I said to them, you know, listen, if you see the pictures and you change your mind, then don't worry, you know, then I respect it, and then I won't use the photo for an exhibition or publications or whatever. And then there was this magazine. I had this big show in Amsterdam, my first big show, and it was really important to me. And there was this magazine. I wanted to publish my work in a really good, like, sort of Observer, I think, kind of magazine, really fantastic. And I know the, how do you say that, the hoofdredacteur? Well, the photo editor or something, I knew him very well, and he said, well, we want to publish pictures of you, but we're really interested in the mothers. And I said, well, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to ask them, you know. And then he said, well, if not, then we are not publishing your work. So I thought, well, I should call them. And then so I called the woman, and they said, no, it's fine. And so, well, at the end, I said, well, maybe you should really think about it for a week, and then we talk about it again. But they were fine with it, and it was really, I thought it, I think that they understood that this is kind of an abstraction. This is not really about a personal life. It's about this experience of giving birth. And that's also why I always keep the background so empty, and I didn't want any personal things in the image, like a painting or a couch. I moved everything aside because for me it was really about of having this experience and not about these people's personal lives. But they all own now one of the pictures, and I'm still really happy with it. So, next, please. So at the same time I photographed a woman after giving birth, I was so interested in photographing people after a very, life-threatening experience. And then I was still teaching in art school, and we had a sort of week where students were going to work in Portugal. And one day we decided to go to the bullfights there. And then all these men came out of the arena covered with blood in a sort of strange look in their eyes, and I started to make Polaroids of them, and they really looked, amazing. You had these people, these boys full of blood, but then smiling. It was really strange. So I decided to go back the next year and make the photos on 4x5 inch. And of course the difference with the woman is that, you cannot give birth without going through all this pain, and for the men it's more like a sort of an adventure, but still I think it's like life-threatening experiences they have been through. In Portugal the bullfights are different than Spain. In Spain they kill the bull, but in Portugal there are 8 boys, I think, and they have to throw the bull on the floor. And they have to jump on the bull, which is really, there are a lot of accidents, so it's pretty tough. Next one, please. So, I had this sort of outside the arena, I made a kind of, I had found a backdrop where I photographed them. Next, please. Well, I went back one more time in 2000, the other one was from 1994. The thing is with this, if you want to do something like photographing bullfighters, you can only do it once a week because it's only on Sunday. And if it doesn't work out, you have to wait a whole week. And if it's raining on that Sunday, you can forget about it. So the first time I went there, I had 2 Sundays, but one was, how do you say that? They didn't do it because it was raining. So I decided to go back later again and do it another time. Next, please. Yes, next. Oh yeah, this is also from 1994, I think. I wanted to photograph school children in their uniform, and I was just interested in, how they distinguish from each other. They have all the uniform, but what makes people different from each other. And initially it was the idea to have like 10 pictures or something on a row, but at the end they were not so good. And I only particularly like this one so much. For me this is really about puberty and about the skin, and it's so brutal in a way from nature that at the moment that you need your parents or something, the most that nature is doing this. I mean, and I think that, Ripsime Visser writes in my catalog, I want to read it, I thought it was really interesting. In the psychoanalysis, an adolescent is compared with a crab that loses its shell. When it happens, the animal hides under rocks until the new shell has hardened, because it's rounded, and in this defenseless state it will bear scars for life. Well, I thought it was very nice said. Also, what I like about this photo is that he doesn't seem to suffer so much from it. It's like if he just undergoes it. And also, I like this photo because everybody knows that you have this. There's always this photographer coming once a year to the school and make this kind of pictures from all the students, and this is more for the family, to remind sweet memories about somebody. And this is, of course, a little bit a different kind of portraiture that's more about the psychological impact of a specific age. Next one. Well, I fell in love with Liverpool. At this school, I photographed the children, was in Liverpool, and one night, the last night of this, I was working there, we decided to go out, and we heard about Cream. Maybe some of you knows it. It's a very famous club in Liverpool. And we wanted to go there, but there was a queue from, I think, like a kilometer, so we asked the taxi driver to bring us somewhere else, and he dropped us at the bus club. And the bus club, they were all like girls from 15, 16, and I was like shocked, you know. It was November, and they were all standing outside with this, no coats, and but I was so fascinated. So I asked the manager if I could come back and build a studio in the club and make portraits. So that's what I did, and next one, please. So finally, I selected three pictures, and I thought it came very close to the uniform somehow, because this kind of dresses is also a kind of a uniform. Next, please. And you know, when I had these pictures and I showed it to a friend of mine, and I said, you know, I don't know, but there's something missing in these pictures. You have this white backdrop and you have no reference that it's in a club. I mean, it looks like posters from, you didn't have it yet, I think H&M, H&M. They always use this advertising, they always use the white backdrop. And so I was, you know, what I really liked about that club too was that DJ who was announcing people's birthday. There was you know, the way they were chatting to each other, and it was just, there was something missing, and I think it was the sound and the movement and the dancing. So my friend said, well, then you should make a video. So I went back and shoot a video. I can't show it here, but that was much, yeah, it was interesting to see how you can, in moving pictures and with sound, you can really tell a different story. Next, please. So this is something a bit different than what I did before. People are not looking in the lens here. I took these photos in Tiergarten in Berlin, and I wanted to, you know, it was, for me, it was very much about the pose. I wanted to see, this comes from observation. These girls were playing a game, and I started to freeze that moment, what I thought was interesting. And of course, photography is always about a frozen moment, and you don't know what came before and what will come after it. So, next, please. I want to say something else about this. Well, anyway, I forgot. Yeah, this also, oh yeah, no, also, what's so interesting, I think, about these frozen moments, that you can make something much more important than that it really was. And, you know, it's not so, maybe not so important for this picture, because for me it's really about the image and not what really actually happened, but I want to show what photography is. Here the girl, she was playing frisbee, and the sister dropped the frisbee and she just did like this. It was a fraction of a second, and I took the picture. And if you make a sort of photo and you hang it in, you know, it becomes really important, and it's like, it looks like now if she's really upset about something, instead of just nothing this moment. Next, please. Well, I got totally different poses than what I, you know, just by observing them. Next one. Oh, this is out of focus, but this is a girl I photographed a couple of times. Next, please. Oh, this is 3 years later. Same tree, same girl. Next one. This is a girl I photographed in an asylum center in 1994, and was sort of, I was participating in a project where they asked 5 photographers to photograph children of asylum seekers. Yeah, and so I photographed this girl, and I asked them, and they were going to present those photos on the, you know, in a sort of, well, it was an exhibition anyway. I wanted to have these kids in their Sunday best, because they were in this asylum center, they were all wearing this sport clothes. So I asked them if they had, you know, a nice dress or something, and she came up with this. And well, I mean, I thought it was fantastic because this is what we don't see anymore in Holland. This is from East Europe. Next, please. Yeah, also this is her, again, like 2 years later. You know, I had that first picture and I liked it so much, and because there was such a story behind it, I was just wondering if the family was still in Holland, and so I tracked them down, and we became sort of friends over the years, and I photographed Almarissa for, you know, now already for 12 years. So this is next, please. So here she gets a bit grounded. You can see it on her feet, a sort of metaphor for that moment. And what I also like is, you know, I always feel that you don't have to show so much of an environment. Just a piece of carpet can tell you, can give an indication of a room. And because you isolate people, little details becomes more important. Like, for instance, her nail polish is like red with black spots on it, and the way she's doing her lipstick is, you know, as a child is doing that. I like that idea that you draw more attention to little details if you keep out all the things which are not important. Next one. So this is quite a change. There is another picture in between, but I didn't have a slide of it yet. I just discovered, I saw that the step was too big here, and sometimes I photographed it twice a year or every year instead of so. But here she is like a bored teenager. Next. And you can see on her clothes that she become much more West European and more self-conscious. Next. I'm still photographing her. It's interesting to have this, you know, this kind of document of somebody's life. And also, because he comes from another culture, that you can see also that changing from, you know, an East European country to a West European. Next. Well, another project I did was, I photographed a boy named Olivier who went into the French Foreign Legion, and I photographed him at the first day, and I followed him for 3 years. So you see him changing from an innocent boy, innocent, naive boy, into a tough military. Next, please. Next. Well, this is the same day as the first one, but then after the haircut and the uniform. I think it's already very different because he was very proud, and somehow the picture shows it. Next one. Now this is after, I photographed him in different stages, you know, of his training. So this was after a kind of an exercise that they had to walk in the forest for a whole night, and I photographed him at 5 o'clock in the morning. Next. So this was more an official occasion. Next. In the beginning you don't see him changing so much, but at a certain point there's a switch that you can really see that things happened. Next. So for instance here, yeah, his features became much more harder and scherper. Next. So, and here I thought that his, you know, his identity suits with his uniform somehow. He looks like 10 years older than the first picture, but it's only 3 years. Next. I also photographed in Israel. I photographed there. Well, I was invited to do a show there, and one of the people who worked in the museum, her sister was going into the army, so we brought her away. And there were all these girls going for the first day in the army, and I thought it might be an interesting subject for me to photograph these girls at the first day and then also follow it. Well, it was not my intention first to follow them, but I photographed some of them also in their civilian clothes. Next, please. Well, this girl I followed for 2 years. Next. Well, she deserted. She didn't want to be in the army anymore, so she went out earlier. But that make them that's what they say themselves too. It makes you very how do you say that? Volwassen. Well, they grow up in a very quick way. Next, please. Next. So this is the same girl, and then the civilian clothes. But it's also, you know, sometimes people look totally different in different circumstances. So the first photo, the girl was really scared probably that she, you know, that she was going to the army, and then you photograph her at home. I think it's a different person almost. So I was also interested in what does a uniform, what does the army with people? And somehow military service implies that somebody has to submit to a collective identity. But I think there's always, like, you know, everybody has his own values, but then the values of the community are sometimes how do you say that? Well, conflicting with the individual values. Next, please. Next. So she was very like a girl, you know, and she tightened her uniform, and she always had makeup. Next. So, and then I also photographed the boys after shooting exercise. Also, that I was interested, you know, I wrote something about it. That it's, you know, how is it? I forgot about it. Oh, I can't find it. Yeah, I mean, if somebody drops his mask, if you photograph somebody after, you know, after you have done something, like me in the swimming pool, you don't think about that if you're not so conscious when you're posing. And does that then show something more of the individual or of the person, or is that just nonsense? But I always feel that it's true, you know, if people are tired or not so conscious, that they show more of who they really are. Next. So again, this is all these people in a kind of group setting, but I try to capture the individual characteristics. Next. Some of them I also photographed at home then again. So he was so incredibly young. Next one. And then they put a gel in the hair, and then it's just a boy, you know. But next. Next. Oh yeah, this is also something I did in Israel. It was a twin I photographed for a couple of years. Next. Next. So this was it. That's what it is.
Could I ask if there's any questions?
Yeah? can't really hear you. So you think that they come to me?
You go to find a subject,
Yeah.
but what I'm saying is like you didn't want the photography to be printed in like newspapers, but the women were like, yeah, it's fine. So like they were quite seemed like you worried about it more than anything. I was just sort of wondering if you saw more about.
Well, you know, but that was with this magazine is also, of course, I was very carefully with that, and I also didn't want that somebody was writing an article about. I wanted to be interviewed by a woman, and so we could do like a little question and answer with this article about about my project, you know, what I was looking for, and the funny thing with this was actually that also in my show, in the exhibition, that there were a lot of women who recognized themselves in this picture and were like, you know, because I think in advertising, for instance, you see always the smiling mom and the sleeping baby, and it's always like a pink cloud. And I tried to show something else. I mean, and I think it was really very truthful what I showed, and I think a lot of women recognized themselves in it. But you know, it was true that there were a lot of men who had big problems with these photos because they felt that, you know, that you shouldn't show women in a way like this, and maybe also because it's scaring for them because they don't know what it is to go through all this pain. But I think we as a woman, you know, we are already used to it because we have our period every month. It's different for us. But it's, yeah, it still happens to me that people come to me, women come to me and that I really were touched by these photos. So, is that answering your question? Because I'm not quite sure.
Any other questions?
For the mothers? I did 7. But at the end it was so different than the beach portraits, because in the beach portraits I could go to different countries and you could show the cultural differences. And with the mothers it didn't make sense to show more than 3, and I thought 3 is a nice number somehow, it's something holy. I don't know, it made sense to do it, and also because it was after half an hour, after 1 day, and after 1 week. And I like it that you can see the difference. I like it that it's a series, you know, that you can also always see that they're protecting these babies and that there is this, you know, this case, this, but yeah.
Hi, I'm here in the front.
Oh, well.
I was wondering, I mean, when we look at the images that recorded changes in people, particularly with the young boy who went to the French Legion, joined the French Legions, if he has seen that work, and what his reaction is to that.
I think he was really proud because he was pretty shy, and but he, you know, I went to Djibouti and I went to Gabon, and I think he liked it somehow, you know, that. I don't think he knew so much about art, but the last time I wanted to photograph, but I didn't add that in the series because it was not a good picture. He invited me. I mean, I was working with this, with my friend, Belgian gallery, so we always were traveling together. And he invited us to come to his parents' house, and it was fantastic. It was really, and also Marissa, you know, I'm still seeing her. And Marissa, you know, for girls, I think it's different because when at the 3rd photo, she started to complain that my photos always looked so sad. And then now I always talk about it with her. With Marissa, it's different. I mean, this is not glamorous magazine photography. This is something else. This is about recording somebody's life, and see how you're changing. And so I wanted to have it more natural. But she understands it. But it's different, with all this image media culture we're living in. It's, they have sometimes a hard time to see to appreciate that difference.
So any last questions? Is that somebody right up at the back? Yeah.
Hi. You've mentioned in your work as being collective identity, all the people you photograph. I've seen you photograph some people through some years of their life, and you mentioned about the individual values and the culture that you can get from their clothes, or posture. How do you think that reflects on the artist's perspective, the artist himself?
Oh, can you repeat it? I didn't really understand.
Can we get a mic up there?
Sorry, my English is sometimes not so good. Where are you anyway?
There's a microphone coming. Just hang on a minute.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, well, that's coming a microphone.
On your work, you've mentioned about collective identity refers to all the portraits that you make with 3 years or 3
Yeah,
years or some days that you follow some people
Yeah,
through their lives.
yeah,
You also mentioned about the culture in what you can get from postures of people or their clothes. How
Yeah.
do you think that reflects on you as an artist?
on myself as a
Yes.
person.
Thank you.
As a person or as an artist?
Well, depends if you distinguish yourself as a person or an artist.
Well, I mean, I think that we are all part of a community or of a group of a difficult question, I don't know. I think that I always need I always try to lift up, I need a theme somehow, I need to because there's so much in the world you can photograph, and I need a sort of fixation on something. But I'm always very, what's always important in my photos is it's always about the pose. I always try to get out the characteristics of somebody, but I'm really aware that that everybody is part of a group, and then I try to get out this characteristics of the individual. Well, what has that to do with myself? I mean, I think that everybody realizes it counts for everybody, I think.
One more question.
Yeah.
Do you think you're represented in the images that you shoot? Obviously, you choose the characteristics of the people you would like to photograph. Do you think there's any specific reason, or are you shown through that work?
Well, I think that my work it's not a truth. It's more about me, maybe. It's always me in it. I think a lot. I realize always that I like the shy people better than and I think it has something to do with me. But I think if we are walking together in the streets and we can choose 2 people who we'd like to spend the day with, I think that you will choose 2 different people than I do, and that's just your personal, what you like in people, and it is always to do something with yourself. Well,
Okay, thank you. I think in terms of the timetable, we should move on. So thank you, Rineke.